Welcome to Quantum Quest Conversations. I'm your host, Megan.
And I'm your host, Haydee.
The podcast where curious conversations lead the way into awakening, growth, and infinite discovery. Hello, we're so excited to welcome Katie Funderburke to Quantum Quest Conversations today. Katie is a Reiki Master, a healing touch practitioner apprentice, and healer who has recently opened her own practice. Her path is deeply heart-led, focused on energy healing, alignment, and supporting others as they return to wholeness. Today, we'll be talking about her journey, her work, and what it really looks like to trust the nudge to open your own healing space. Welcome, Katie.
Yeah, welcome, Katie. We're so blessed to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you both so much for your interest in what I'm doing. It's an honor to be here and to be able to tell my story because I feel like it's something a lot can relate to. So if you want to start with how Reiki found me, is that okay?
Yeah, jump right in, girl.
It's a little bit, some of it is going to seem impossible. So just bear with me. The honest truth is about 7 years ago, I had a toddler and a newborn, and I had just returned off of maternity leave back into my emergency room job. I was a 12-hour shift nurse, and I was orienting to the charge nurse role. I was trying to juggle maintaining a milk supply, little babies at home. My husband had just changed jobs recently. We had just moved into our new home recently. There was a lot of like intense but good stress. And it was like a sleepless, chaotic season. And throughout the second pregnancy, I developed plantar fasciitis. And that seems like not that big of a deal. But I've learned that a lot of inflammatory processes are secondary to stress and high cortisol levels. In hindsight, I know that now. But I limped off of my right heel for months because it felt like every time I put my heel down, I was stepping on a sharp tack. Well, I was limping around the emergency department, and all of a sudden it felt like someone hit the top of my right foot with a hammer.
Wow.
I remember when it just like I flushed with a cold sweat. It hurt so bad. And I stood there for a moment. There were emergencies happening all around me. And I just went back to work because nobody has time for that, right?
Yeah.
It was probably something's wrong. Anyway, worked through it. You can actually push yourself to numbing your pain. You can work through your pain. And that's where we don't listen to our bodies as much as we should. Pain is an important and valid signal for something being wrong. And I refuse to listen to my body. So I continued to work on that foot for the next 3 weeks until I could no longer bear weight. And it felt like there was a clicking, something was wrong. And I could no longer fit it in my shoes, even my Crocs. And so my husband was like, you're going to get that checked out. You work in an emergency department. They could probably help you.
Yeah.
You can help yourself. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to make time for this. So I scheduled an appointment, went to the foot doctor, and they x-rayed it and said, Katie, how long has your foot been broken?
Because oh my gosh.
You have you've taken a stress fracture and you've taken a stress fracture and you've displaced it.
Oh wow.
So now you're going to need a plate and pins to realign this third metatarsal in your right foot. And I had a little meltdown about it because I didn't have any more leave time. I just got back off of a maternity leave with that baby that I also didn't have leave time for because it was a newer job. And I know people who have had trouble with blood clots after surgery. I just knew in my heart and mind, I'm not going to have surgery. I'm not going to have surgery. And the doc said, well, let's put you in an ortho boot until you change your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm lugging around this boot. If anybody's ever been in one of those ortho rocker boots that like are knee high, they're extremely heavy. They hurt your lower back. They make one foot sit higher than the other. And it's like a ball and chain that you're like slinging around. So as I'm this new level of pain, one of the mid-level providers in the emergency department saw me struggling. She saw my pain, and she was like, Katie, why don't you come and sit in my chair for a minute and let me do some Reiki? And at the time, I have never heard that term. I'm just a simple Southern girl that was raised, Baptist, Methodist, and I didn't know what this was. And so I thought, I don't know about that. But I did it because why not? She insisted I come sit in her seat. I had no prior knowledge of what we were doing. She took my badge off. She took my stethoscope out from around my neck, and she told me to just sit in her seat for a minute and hush because I wanted to make small talk. It's
Yeah.
a little awkward to have someone in your space just standing there with their hands on you. She
Mhm.
stood behind me and she rested her palms on my shoulders for what felt like an eternity in my mind because we're in the middle of an emergency department. People are seeing us. She's just standing behind me, touching my shoulders. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's strange. And culturally, we don't like people to be in our bubble. And, special shout out to Emily Wheeler. She was the nurse practitioner that did this for me and ultimately changed the trajectory of my life. So she stood behind me. I estimate about 3 minutes and told me to be quiet. And when I stood up from that chair, I walked around and realized that I had no pain in my foot. I had no pain in my lower back where that boot had been shredding my muscles back there. I had no racing trains of thought, the typical 4 or 5 trains of thought running at the same time, and worries and anxieties, and all of it was gone. There was a level of peace that I've never experienced, at least not in my adult life. And I turned around and asked her, what was that? Like,
Yeah.
what just happened? And she laughed at me like this is commonplace for her. And she said, you should let me come and do a full session on you. And I thought, yes, this is for me.
Yes, sign
Let's
me
see what
up.
can happen. Yeah. So I continued to baby my foot. I let her come over within 72 hours. I know it was a short amount of time. I laid across the foot of my bed face up. The great thing about the energy work is you get to keep your clothes on compared to massage. And she moved all over me and lightly rested her hands over different areas that I didn't know the significance of at the time. And every time she would move her hands, she would follow with a crystal.
Mhm.
Also had no knowledge base of the usage of crystals. And I had sensations during that session that stayed with me permanently. So while she was working on my head, I had all these visuals of colors and movement that I've never experienced before. Where she laid crystals over my solar plexus area and in my left palm, it felt like a stream of energy moving through those surfaces, through the center of me for days after. It wasn't painful, but it was a palpable, energetic happening.
Wow.
We finished the full session and we went and sat on my couch and we were just casually talking. I'm still babying the foot because in my mind it's broken. And we're sitting on the couch and she held the back of my right heel in her palms like this. Now, mind you, the bone that was broken was in the top of the right foot, this straight bone, okay, that was displaced. And she's holding my foot's resting, my heel's resting in her palm, and we're talking just casually. And I felt that third metatarsal in the top of that right foot pull up towards the ceiling, like just pull and realign. And I was telling her in the moment, real time, as it was happening, there is something moving in my foot. That bone that I know is displaced is moving towards the ceiling right now. And she continues to laugh at me like, yeah, and I thought, why is it doing that? Why doesn't it hurt? This is a foot that I have babied for months now. And she left. I continued to kind of baby this foot. My pain was gone. And within 3 days, I'll never forget, a woman walked in the front door of our emergency department holding a little boy who had just seized in the back seat of her car. He was gray, blue, limp. And I was able to run for the first time in months. No pain, no limp. Run from the back end of the emergency room to that woman to get this child. And in that moment, I realized my foot is fine. It's fine. There's no pain. I'm using it. I don't need to baby it anymore. What is this?
Yeah.
And the best gift I think she could have given me was telling me, Katie, I didn't heal you. You healed you. I just tap you in. And
Wow.
you have the capacity to do this for other people and for yourself, for your children, for your plants, for your food, for any sentient conscious being. You can extend this out. All you have to do is learn. So that is the why. And it has led me down a path of multiple classes, multiple attunements. It's true that the more you practice anything, the better you get. That's totally true. And I can remember just blindly attempting to do these things and not, for the longest time, I could not feel the energy. I couldn't see it. But I kept trusting and I kept remembering the miracle that I was given. And it's motivated me and pushed me to keep going and keep trying. And I have been able to profoundly help myself and my kids and people who have trusted me along this journey and have let me learn through them. Because every single session and every moment is so vastly different. And sometimes I can see it now. I can see the auric field. I can see distortions. I can sense pain. It's really been a learning curve too, because with the energetic work, there's a little bit of a risk. I mean, initially when I would do the sessions, within the next 24 hours after a session, I would be feeling the client's pain in myself.
Yeah.
And I had to realize what I'm doing wrong. I'm not clearing myself from their field. And it's true that when you recognize a certain discomfort or a sensation is not yours, it's like it instantly dissipates. You've named that it's not yours, it's off of you. You do not have to keep anything that's not ours.
Right.
Do you have any questions about like the attunement process or classes or?
I am just amazed
Yeah.
about your story. As a Reiki master myself, I don't have such an amazing story. And I am just glad that you're sharing that testimony to other people because, people with illnesses or pains could be listening at this, and they just can look for a Reiki practitioner to help them heal. You're gonna laugh because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and the other day, because Megan always tells me, that to just heal, and I was thinking, why is it that I don't want to heal? Because I can practice Reiki on myself. And I figured because that has allowed me time, that really led me to all that where we are right now, you know. But I think it's time. And I was listening to Joe Dispenza in the morning today, and he was telling his story about how he was told that he was never going to walk again. And 10 and a half weeks later he was walking and
Yep.
doing everything. And so thank you for sharing your story. I don't know
Yeah.
if you have questions, Megan.
Well, I know. I actually, yeah, more comments just kind of like you have, Heidi, is that Katie, I really appreciate you opening up and being vulnerable and sharing this, story, sharing your truth, because some people could listen to this and think, you're crazy. Like you had this foot that was hurting you. you work in an ER and you're not going to the doctor. But I can promise you that more people are going to listen to this and think they can relate to it. And it's not that you're crazy, because how many of us moms like push ourselves and we don't put ourselves first. I have a similar like relatable story to that. I had a brand new baby. That was my third baby. Um, and saying like, yeah, I was working and I was breastfeeding and you're trying to balance it all. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I had a blockage in my milk duct, and I went I like after, I mean, my whole breast was swollen, and I go to the doctor, not even the ER. I go to the doctor, and the doctor was like, I think you should be admitted. And I was like, no, can't you just give me like antibiotics and like send me on my way? And she said, like, okay, but I'm telling you, if it's not like going down remotely, like you're gonna have to come back. I was in the worst pain of my entire life. I mean, I was like blacking out, and I was just kept trying to get the baby to try to feed off of it, thinking the baby could clear it. And it was the worst pain I've ever experienced. I can't even begin to tell you. And I would just be in my head, like screaming as the baby's trying to feed off me, thinking it could clear, trying to pump it away. And it wasn't. It was the worst. It was like what you were, it was like stabbing knives in my breast. Anyways, I mean, it was to a point where I just like blacked out, and nobody even knows the struggle. You know, my husband's just going to work and not, I mean, he knew I was like not feeling good, but I don't think it to that extreme. But I look back and think, why did it have to get that bad? I finally went back to the doctor and let her know that, it wasn't going down. And I ended up getting admitted to the hospital for 5 days with a brand new baby. And let me tell you, I look back at that situation and I think, you know how many signs God gave me to slow down, to stop trying to manage so much around me, and to just sit and be in the moment, enjoy my new baby. But it's like go, 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 go. Try to handle so much stuff, and we don't put ourselves first, and then look what happens. It gets worse. So I just appreciate you sharing your story because, yeah, we can go get Reiki, when the symptoms are first coming on, and it doesn't have to be so extreme. We don't have to go through all that pain, that there is help out there. Um, but anyways, I just
Yes.
wanted to share that it is so relatable.
I have a question. So, as a nurse practitioner and training the Western medicine, how do you feel, or what are your thoughts about seeing how someone can heal another person without that? I mean, your friend is obviously a nurse, but there's a lot of people like myself that are training Reiki, but we are not nurses or training any medical, we don't have any medical background. How do you feel about that? Like seeing how energy can heal?
I almost believe that the medical knowledge that we have can cause somewhat of an interference, because nowhere throughout all of my nursing education were we really taught the power of an auric field or life force energy. Nowhere is that acknowledged. They tell you to be compassionate and they tell you to not be afraid to touch your patients. But the magnitude of impact that a compassionate presence can generate, oh my God, like it is so profound. And much of the medical minded folks, we're very task driven, we're very science based, we need proof, we need research, we need journals, we need published studies. And fortunately, we live in this information age where all of that's coming online now. Like we can access these things. If people want the proof, it exists. You just have to look for it. However, science and medicine doesn't really appreciate yet the things that are immeasurable. So I have really learned over the last 7 years how to make this trust fall into each session, because I surrender and I allow myself to be this conduit for life force chi key energy to flow through crown, down to heart, out through hands for the greatest good for the client. That's the intention. And a lot of times I've gotten, I'm really trying to make it a bit of a ritual with the clients to allow them to come in and tell me what is their intention, and hold that space for them, hold that same intent for them, with them, and get out of the way. Like, get your mind out of the way, get your distractions out of the way, and be 100% present with someone. It kept, when I was thinking of things that I wanted to mention in this, I really need to say that we all already practice energy work. You know, every time as a mother you're kissing boo-boos, that's exactly what you're doing. You are healing through this intention to be compassionate with these kisses. And when I was little, and this may be a Southern thing, but if you got hurt, your mom or grandmother would blow on it, like blow on it. That is a movement of chi. And that's actually something that you learn how to do in a very specific way through Reiki, especially as you reach mastery level. There's it's a blowing technique. Um, Another thing I wanted to mention was how much I believe that prayers of gratitude have brought me to this place. Despite the struggle and the stress and the broken foot and the chronic pain, I kept speaking prayers of gratitude for everything that was going right. I always opened up my heart to God and said, this is everything I'm so thankful for, and help me learn through this chronic pain. How can we move through this? Because I'm getting exhausted. Like, I'm getting desperate. And, you know, God, if you could please just show me a way to be free from this, because chronic pain changes you. It changes your personality. It changes your tolerance. I just, after you hurt so long with every step that you take, which Haydee, you can relate, I'm sure, like, it just makes you into a different person. And I saw myself changing. I didn't want to be short tempered. I didn't want to be depressed. I didn't want to be exhausted, but it was like inevitable. It was coming with how much pain I was dealing with. And at the same time, I was failing nursing the second child. I could not get her latch right. I was struggling with pain in multiple areas of my body. So, and trying to heal from having her. But with the prayers of gratitude and asking and opening myself to receive what would be God's will, landed me in through this miraculous path where now miracles and synchronicities are commonplace. It is more than I ever could have imagined that I was asking for back then. And now I'm like, every little thing is a miracle. Every little thing, when you open up your eyes, for those who have eyes to see, that is a real, true statement, because there's so much happening around us and through us that these limited senses are not perceiving. And if you practice and you set intention and you work at it, well, you can deepen that perception. And I'm just, you know, I like to joke with people that God broke my foot to make me to teach me how to be a healer. And now I see the path that I was supposed to be led down. I was so stubborn. There's no way I would have believed any of this existed had it not been for that chain of events.
I was going to tell you exactly that your food was the initiation for you remembering your path. Yes. You know, because you were born a healer. See, you followed that path. Your soul followed the traditional medicine path, you know. So your food, all it did was remind you that you were a healer since the beginning.
I fully believe that now, but it's hard to step into such a large title, and trying to believe it myself has taken years of witnessing my efforts for other people reach awesome fruition. Like watching them stand up off the table in no pain when they walked in terrible pain. Watching someone come in who has acutely hurt their back stand up and be fine. I mean, I get to witness this level of miraculous happening. And I can't explain exactly the mechanics of what took place, but I know that there's a greater intelligence that's working through us when you open your heart and your mind in a loving, serving manner. It's a safe place. It's a sacred act. And it's rooted in love and compassion completely. And it's led into many more happenings. And Meghan is so excited to out me, but like
I wasn't gonna do it.
I
I was gonna let you, if
let
you
me do
wanted
it.
to, if you
So
want to share.
I need to say the way this came about was during Reiki sessions and healing touch, I started receiving clear, audible messages for the client. And it would sometimes be in like a different dialect. And it would be, or sometimes I would hear it in the actual, the voice of the client who's laying on the table, eyes closed, mouth shut. I was hearing guidance. And it was sometimes it would make no sense to me whatsoever, but I began to get brave enough to relay this to the person, and it would make complete sense for them. It would be advice, it would be information on what was laying on their hearts that they needed reassurance about that I would have no knowledge of. And because that kept happening and it was coming through in like bits and bites, I started asking God, the way I do, like, is there something I can do to clarify this, to sharpen this skill? And I remember typing my notes at work one day as an infusion nurse, because that's my day job. That is what I do. I'm an infusion nurse. I take care of the public in a small rural hospital. And then when I have a moment, I introduce aromatherapy and healing touch to the patients, which is completely acknowledged now by my hospital system, and I adore that. So I started asking for a way to fine tune these skills, and I was typing on my keyboard, and the inspiration just hit that I was going to be able to translate these messages as fluently as I type.
Wow.
And near perfect accuracy, fluent without having to think about it. I love to type and I just fly across the keyboard. And I think that's a bit of homage to my grandmother, who was a transcriptionist that I love very much. But in through that thought came Mavis Patila's mediumship psychic course that was a year long that we just completed. And I'm so honored to have completed that with you guys. It has taken me from absolutely no experience to being able to fluently translate and perform healing acts of healing mediumship readings and psychic reads for people who desperately need to know that there's a greater reality taking place and that their loved ones across the veil are still very much so present and around them and seeing their life. And so the cascade of events has been nothing short of expansive. Suzanne Giesemann likes to say we need to stretch. Wow, have we stretched? And I'm just honored to be able to be this conduit for communication and for the healing chi. Like, absolutely honored to be in this role currently. It's nothing I saw for myself 10 years ago whatsoever.
It's a beautiful story, and I'm so glad that you shared that part because I think it's so important, and it's nothing to be um like fearful of saying, but yeah, like we are psychic mediums, and this gift came to us, from God, and we are meant to use it to heal people, to help people, and for service. And it's all nothing but good. So that's awesome that you're able to use the psychic and the medium to really enhance your Reiki practice. I know you talked a lot about like doing the Reiki on like physical issues people have, if they're in pain or anything, do you do it for emotional purposes as well?
I would like to think that the majority of what I do is more of an emotional and mental field focus, and that the physical catches up as a result of leveling out emotional and physical planes. There's a lot of esoteric knowledge we could get like so deep into with layers of the auric field and energy centers and chakras and dantians. And I won't go all that deep in, but there's a concept that your physical body is a reflection or a manifestation out from your emotional and mental planes and your mental state. So if we have a chronic pain, typically that began as an unprocessed and stuck emotion. So a lot of what Reiki does is fully clear your field. Like I am deliberately and intentionally smoothing things out, clearing things out, and opening us up to this really deeply relaxed parasympathetic nervous system online state. And that's where people like rapidly heal themselves. That's why, like, overnight, when you can get a really great night's rest, you fall into this parasympathetic nervous system, like fully online, and you heal rapidly. So, sleep is absolutely crucial. Reiki generates that state, and we can get into it pretty quick on the table. But later on, typically the night of a session, people sleep so deeply. And that's where a lot of the magic happens. Like, and I'm not there in their room with them.
Yeah.
It's they're connected in. We've activated this relaxed state, and it allows them to heal themselves. It's such a beautiful thing. And I'm humbled to be called a healer, but I know that I'm really just reminding people how they can heal themselves. And I'm like tapping them in to be able to connect in and heal themselves.
The stigma for us and why we were afraid, I guess, to call ourselves, not to call ourselves, but we were proven that we can do this work as psychic mediums and healers, is because of the stigma, like the darkness of it. Like they have portrayed mediums as dark, or using a lot of tools and a crystal ball and dark purple curtains in by the entrance of a room, and it really is not like that. It's like you, it's like Meghan, it's like me. It's just everyday people, that it's not like we're doing anything dark. All we want is help others heal. That's what we want. Like a psychic would, or a medium would, with a person that's aching. Their heart is aching because they just want a confirmation word of their loved one, that it's right there with them still. And we can do that, within 5 minutes, we can do that. And they live happy. And in the case of Reiki, like you said, you were aching so much of a broken foot. And Meghan also mentioned how we always, as mothers, put ourselves last all the time because, maybe our husband needs the help, or maybe our children being sick. And yeah, we can't afford to take the day off, And so, but that's the beautiful thing, that then, people, like you said, we all have those gifts. It's just a matter of taking a little bit of time and explore them. And you said it beautifully, because you said everybody has their gift to heal themselves, and so I truly, truly love that. And you're at your office, right? That
Yeah.
at your Reiki healing practice.
Yes. This has been also nothing I saw myself doing. I am heavily involved with my children's school, and any opportunity to chaperone their field trips, I'm going to try to be there, or my husband will try to be there. Um, I was chaperoning a zoo field trip with my first grader, and there was this grandmother who's always with this her granddaughter that shares the same grade level with my youngest. And I see this woman at birthday parties, and I'm seeing her at like church events, community events, and she's on this zoo trip with me now. And the girls wanted to walk together. So then I get to speaking with her grandmother and the other chaperone. And she says, Katie, what is it that you do for a living? And I told her that I'm an infusion nurse and part time. And something, God, nudged me to say, tell her what else you do. Tell her. And so I was like, but I'm also very much so into integrative modalities, which is what the Nurse Association and the hospital realm is calling all of the aromatherapy and the energy work. It's called an integrative modality, not complementary, not alternative. We're integrating because we're using these things as an adjunct to modern medicine, which I think is the best and most fair way. Because, like in China, you have to choose a path. Either you're going holistic or you're going modern medicine. Over here, we're starting to like merge. And I just think that's beautiful. So, anyway, when I started telling her that I do Reiki and healing touch, and I'm very educated in aromatherapy, and I bring these items to the patients, she got so excited and she was like, oh my goodness, I've been looking for someone like you to share this floor, this space that I have. They're leasing out the rooms of this old building in Marshall. And I said, oh, that's so funny. I just told my husband like 3 weeks ago, driving down our highway, that I thought it would be really neat to one day have a Reiki room with just a massage table and like all this sacred intention, like make it really nice and warm and have it in like upstairs of an old building in Marshville. And like I said it 3 weeks prior to this happening at the zoo. And she says, Katie, my building is at such and such location. And it was a bar and it was all these different things. And I'm like, is that building like overlooking the highway and across from a little antique shop? And she slaps me on the arm and says, yes, it is. And you've got to come see it today. And I'm like,
Wow.
that's the place. That's the place that I saw myself working in 3 weeks ago. That's another inspired moment. And our master teacher, Mavis, would talk about inspirations and how manifesting comes through as an inspired idea. And then it's our responsibility to take positive forward physical action. So I fully believe that I don't know that I saw it coming or that it was given to me through as an inspired idea. But I'm now seated in that space. It's a beautiful space where I have
That's
clients that
beautiful.
are they're not hospital bound, you know. I love working on coworkers. I love working on patients. And if someone is challenged with mobility, this is not the place because I have a very steep um, staircase to get up here. But the hospital setting allows me to continue to work on that population. This is more for those who are not involved in the hospital setting. Perhaps they're dealing with more of the emotional and mental need to be here. But I have had folks come up these steps in excruciating foot and knee pain and leave with no pain. Like
Wow.
You
it
know
has
what?
been,
I just got the message that you're gonna be doing in the future some house calls also.
I wondered that. I do, you know, I'm certain I have a history of doing home health. I'm not afraid to go out to people's residences. And of course, if someone is in dire need, I'll go. Um, but I haven't had an opportunity for that yet. I also feel like there's going to be some involvement with hospice and perhaps like a death doula type of role just to help ease the transition. Since I'm comfortable, I've been around a lot of death in the hospital and in nursing home settings.
I'm
So
getting a yes on that one as well.
death doula keeps coming up. So
Yeah.
if I can do something to smooth the transition for someone to leave this physical body and move forward and on and up, like what an honor.
Oh, yeah. That is definitely your calling. I can feel it. What a beautiful gift that you have, and to be able to share it with so many people, and just you're very inspiring of, you know, it's so subtle. It seems so easy. It's like kind of like you ask and you shall receive. Like it's talk to God, and then the plan just kind of unfolds. And I think our lives really can be that kind of easy. Like, I'm not saying that you're not gonna have struggles in your life, but you can get through those struggles with ease when you do just kind of like surrender. And that's what it sounds like throughout this journey of you just kind of surrendering. And I don't know. It's very inspiring, and sometimes we forget to do that. We get really busy with our lives, and we just, what's going to happen this time? Or what are we going to do? Or and it's just like the more that we just like settle down, calm down, and let our lives kind of like unfold how they're meant to be, and we just kind of keep following this path, it's going to be very beautiful. And you're very inspiring and sharing your story. And I know this is going to help a lot of people, and so many people are going to be able to relate to things that you said, which you said that in the beginning. And I think it's so true, and it's very relatable.
So much of this success, I think, has been open-mindedly saying yes.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't exactly raised to be fearless or doubtless. I was very much so surrounded by women who worried, worst case scenario mentality, like exhausted themselves in worry. And now I realize not only is that counterproductive, but it's somewhat dangerous. Like where
Mhm.
you're placing your focus and your attention and your thoughts, even though you're not speaking them out loud, you're cultivating what you focus on. And
Yes.
so I figured out finally how to like dispel that whenever I would have like counterproductive or negative thoughts. I learned, I cannot remember who taught me this, but it was someone that I came across probably in a podcast that was like, every time you have like a damning thought, like a doom and gloom kind of thought, worst case scenario, put your hand up and be like, that's what's not going to happen. And
Yeah.
like dispel it actively. And so I started doing that. And then eventually I realized I don't have to keep thinking this way. I don't have to, like, you reprogram your mentality, and
Yeah.
your world reflects back to you what you're emitting, what you're thinking about. And so the more I started experiencing miracles and appreciating everything possible, all the way down to like, thank you, God, for waking me up this morning. Thank you for the air in my lungs. Thank you for the love that flows between us. Like, basic stuff. Thank you for access to clean food and water, like the roof over my head. This, everything that you can think of to be grateful for, speak it out loud and give so much. Do this trust fall, like as opportunities present themselves, saying yes with an open mind and an open heart, showing up, doing your best in the moment with a good intention for who you're with, like a pure, loving, compassionate presence.
Do
And
you
then
realize that you're healing your family line too, just by
I
doing that?
I fully believe that, because the women in my family, they needed this, and now some of them are already, they're already gone, that could have benefited from this so greatly. And it's an honor, truly. It's an honor, but it's also made somewhat of a lonesome state, because there's not a lot of people around me who understand what I'm doing. So I connect with classmates, and I connect with um, the few people that like trust me and would allow me to work on them as I was very much so in the beginning learning. And that was about it. There wasn't a lot of witnesses. There wasn't a lot of outward support around me, but that didn't stop the growth. And now that I've kind of come out on the other side, and I'm doing the things and succeeding, and the evidence speaks for itself, the results are permanent in so many cases, I think they'll come around. I think people will start to understand why I invest so much time in this and why it's so important to me. Like, just the handful of clients that I've seen in this space, because I've only been open since October 20th of this year. If all that ever happens is what's already taken place in this room, it was worth it completely.
That's really funny that you say that. Our timeline of starting this podcast is about the same. We had our first episode the October 21st, and Heidi and I have said that to each other of just if the people that we have brought on here are able to share their stories, and even if it just one person gets something from it, like but we've had numerous comments and people sharing their stories back to us and giving appreciation for us doing our podcast. And it's like we said the same thing, like we could be done, like we are just so grateful for the people that we've helped already. And if it's God's plan for this to continue on, we are here for it, and we're just gonna keep kind of following that. Um, Something else really fast I wanted to say is I always meditate in the mornings, and I always kind of put an intention if we're going to record that day, give me some inspiration or, for the call. And miracles. It was just repeatedly just talking about miracles in my meditation. And I think that is what you're describing. I think people think sometimes, I mean, the foot healing 1,000% is no doubt a miracle. Um, but I think it's really interesting to me of like, I think what people want to put uh miracles, like what category they would say. It has to be so mind-blowing for them to consider a miracle. But really, every day is a miracle that we are alive and we're living this life, and so much to be grateful for. But yeah, to be able to lay your hands on someone and, help heal them, even if it's, them healing themselves and you're just kind of that middleman, like these are miracles. Everything that you're doing, all these people that you are helping, it is a miracle each and every day. So, yeah, again, just thank you. Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing. You have a very busy schedule with your family, your children, and then you work at the hospital. On top of that, you have your practice, and making space for us, that means a lot. And hopefully in the future we can have another conversation with you. I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of stories, healing stories, to share with the public, so that they're compelled to look for you know this kind of healing, because it obviously heals faster, like in the case of your foot.
Right.
And it's a great story.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. Can you tell everybody what the name of your business is and where they can find you?
I am at the House of Key. It's just House of Key LLC, and Key is spelled Ki. And it only has a Facebook page right now. It's been operating by word of mouth only. And wow, that has been very successful. I didn't realize I would have such a busy first month. And it's been an honor, truly. And I am in Marshville, North Carolina.
Do you offer like online Reiki, or is it in person only?
I do. I offer distance sessions for both healing touch and for Reiki. And I explain it as if you can take one of two pathways. If you're someone who is more cautiously minded or very much so more like medical minded, healing touch would be a great path. It's very methodical and procedural, whereas Reiki is ancient Japanese symbology, and it's chanting, and it's crystals. And some people they're not here for all of that. Which is totally fine. I will say that both have beautiful aspects. I love things about both of them. And I know that the hospital, especially Aurora Health, recognizes Reiki as well as healing touch. So that's coming online together. I don't know about the crystal usage, and then with the Reiki stuff, I do the Tibetan singing bowls. So a little bit of sound healing and vibrational exposure for people. I love to do in-person sessions. I like to bring people here because this space is so sacred. And, but there's much to be received through virtual sessions. And the way that I'm doing distance sessions is like across a Zoom. And that way we can communicate with each other. We can be present with one another. And all the recipient has to do is be somewhere comfortable and be uninterrupted throughout the duration of time to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, I'm kind of backpedaling a little bit. There's some things I wanted to say about the attunement process for Reiki and versus like the classes for healing touch. Anyone can go and do these. There's no prerequisite, male, female, young, old, it doesn't matter. You can go through the classes and learn how to do this for yourself and for your family and for your pets and for your friends. And some hospitals are starting to offer their own classes. Here locally, Charlotte AHEC, and it may be under South Piedmont's hospital authority type education in Charlotte. They have changed names a couple of times, but they offer healing touch classes. They offer Reiki classes, or you can find a practitioner that is not affiliated with the medical field. If you are an employee on the clock for Atrium or Advocate Health, you can actually use your education money to go and do these type of courses and be reimbursed. And I will say that finding a Reiki practitioner who practices traditional like Usui Tibetan Reiki or Karuna Reiki, those experiences tend to be a lot more sacred and ritual, and there's really a different depth to those kind of classes versus the sterility and the structure that you'll receive through the hospital route. I want to say that my very first class it's not really a class, it's called an attunement. And I was at a Reiki Master's home in Waxhaw, and it was an older couple. They both practiced Reiki, and they taught me the things that I needed to know about the oral tradition and Mikao Usui, his story about going up on the mountain, meditating for however long, receiving the information and the knowledge and the symbols and bringing them back down to the public. And so this oral tradition, of course, means that there's going to be some difference from lineage to lineage. There's going to be a little bit of distortion. And that's okay, because the intention and the goal here is the same. The shared intention for healing is the same. And during that attunement, I had some profound clearances. Like, I cried for probably 12 hours. Like,
Wow.
and it was as if we were sitting here speaking just like this. I was talking through it and it was streaming off of my chin, like
Wow.
water, like a waterfall. I just had never experienced anything like that. And when Haydee said, you're healing your lineage, you're healing generations, I believe that is what was taking place in that moment. Just so much weight being lifted. I also had some electrical burns, like is what it looked like. The skin peeled off of my hands down to the mid palm, off of these 4 fingers on each hand, and the fronts of my great toes on each foot had what looked like an exit wound, electrical slit down the front of them. So strange things happen, like when you're being exposed. And I wonder if I experienced all those physical symptoms because I needed the proof that it was real. Because you can't see it. You're being told that this flows through you, but I needed the proof. Like, I needed the evidence, and I just kept being handed it between the miraculous healing and the evidence on my hands and my feet and the emotional purge. And with every subsequent attunement, I would get I think people call it like ascension sickness or ascension symptoms, extreme respiratory illness and GI upset and fatigue. Like, there's a deep commitment and a cellular and DNA level recalibration for someone who steps into this role and commits their life to this level of service for someone else. It's not all clouds and magic. Like there is a sort of a reckoning, like a shift that must take place for you to be able to be this conduit and to clearly transmute and tolerate this level of movement energetically. So it just needed to kind of throw that out there, that there's, things to consider and to be ready for when you start stepping into a higher calling. That's honestly what it is. You sort of sacrifice your reputation and the public's perception of you to step into this higher calling of service. And I'm truly honored to have gone down that path, and I have no regrets. And it comes with change. And, you spoke of miracles. This morning, the channeled message from Suzanne Giesemann is titled Miracles. I don't know if you saw that yet, Megan.
No, but I promise you, I feel like it pops up like on notifications on my phone, like it just says that like it's available. So it is crazy because it will come throughout like different hours of the day. So many times during my meditation, when it matches up, it will come during my meditation. So I saw the notification come through today, but I haven't actually opened it to read it. But that's interesting.
It's beautiful.
As Suzanne would say, isn't that interesting?
Right. And I just, with all this shift and the shift in consciousness, the shift in physical capacity, in energetic capacity, the miracles are commonplace. They
Yeah.
are.
They are. People just have to open up their eyes.
Speaking about miracles, when you were talking before, and I'm sure, Megan, you will see it when you're editing the video, there was a big orb by on the top of the bed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to look.
It just goes.
Whenever we were, this room was in such poor condition whenever we found it, or it found me a year ago. The floor was buckled and the ceiling was falling. There were no electrical outlets and the paint was just crumbling. And I had such faith that this is where we're supposed to be. And it took almost a year to get it fixed. But underneath the paint, I was able to take that time and lay in and hand draw all of my Reiki symbols and put over the primer. There's so much symbology in this room and so much sacred intention for this space. And sometimes during sessions, it's as if those symbols glow through to my perception,
Wow.
like gold glow through. Like you can't see them on the paint. They're under the paint.
Yeah.
But I can see them during the sessions. It's
That is amazing. Oh my gosh.
There's really something to be said about cultivating a sacred space, to do your work and to act as like this beacon of signal to perform these acts. I mean, it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you so much again. And we appreciate everything, all the stories, your personal life-changing story. I think that's very memorable. And you guys, if you like it, please subscribe, like, and share with other people, especially family members that might be, sick or like with chronic pain. This stuff really works. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much for being part of today's Quantum Quest. We hope this conversation awakens something new within you, a spark, a question, a remembering. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, keep exploring with an open mind and an open heart. Bye for now.